Before I proceed with the topic of omniscience, I want to point out that combined with the idea that God's eternal existence is thought by some to be a timeless eternal now state, and his sovereignty indicates he determines all things, both topics covered in previous videos, we can see how one might arrive at the idea that there is nothing that can be outside the realm of God's present knowledge. When we speak of omniscience, it has to do with the function of God's mind and how it deals with the issue of knowledge. Theologically, it has been used to claim that God knows everything, including all future history and activity of every individual in minute detail. There's nothing that will ever happen of which he does not already have present knowledge. Under this heading, it is often represented that God's knowledge is static. It never changes because all that can ever be known, including all choices and behavior of moral agents, is eternally present in his mind and knowledge. As long as God has existed eternally, he has had this one lump sum of knowledge present in his mind. According to those advocating eternal, absolute, definite, certain foreknowledge, there is no active or dynamic activity in the mind of God. This is a philosophical or theological view that does not align with the dynamic view present in the pages of Scripture. One might philosophically endorse this view, but it's difficult to biblically endorse this view. Some prefer to hold the aforementioned view and try to fit Scripture into it, as opposed to formulating a view based on a well-rounded compilation of Scripture. So, I prefer to represent ideas associated with the mind and knowledge of God by saying that God knows all that is knowable. What is knowable and how and when it is known is a further area of study. To summarize what I believe is a biblical view, I would begin by saying that God is supreme in knowledge. He possesses more knowledge than any other sentient being. All past and present realities are known by God. Having been created in his image and likeness, we know some, but not all, past and present realities. Habits, characteristics, and patterns of moral beings are knowable. This often makes human beings relatively predictable, but does not necessitate absolute, eternal, exhaustive foreknowledge. Present activities are knowable. Present dispositions are knowable. God has access to this knowledge, but how he accesses this area of knowledge is another issue. In Scripture, God is often referred to as searching, examining, testing, and investigating. Present plans about the future are knowable. This would refer to plans that God is making and plans that human beings are making. This does not mean that these plans cannot and might not change. According to Scripture, even God's plans are often delayed or modified in light of conditions that come into existence. Are future choices of a genuinely free will knowable in the absolute, eternal, exhaustive sense. In classical theology, which relies heavily on certain philosophical ideas, we find that all things are set and static and will never vary from that which has been eternally present in the mind of God. Biblically, we get a much more dynamic representation that we should not feel compelled to change in order to fit our theological and philosophical presuppositions. Classical theology has led to a very static, deterministic view of life, while biblical theology is much more dynamic with variables and possibilities as human beings created in the image and likeness of God interact with their Creator and the created order.